Hello. In this NCERT series, now we'll see Chapter 3, Ruling the Countryside. In the previous chapter, we have seen that there was a battle called Battle of Buxar in 1764 between Mir Qasim and the British officials. Now, in 1765, there was a treaty, and in which the Diwani rights of Bengal were acquired by British. Okay, so what happens when a company acquires Diwani rights? It means that it can collect land revenue from the people of Bengal. That is called the Diwani rights. So what was the advantage for this? By this from the British. Prior to it, British used to buy cotton, silk, and other raw materials of fine quality from. It used to buy it from India, and it used to export from India to Britain. How did it do it? It used to sell gold, silver, and with that money it used to buy the raw materials. But now the revenue is coming from Bengal, as it has acquired Diwani rights. It can collect land revenue from people of Bengal, so it is generating some income. So with this income, it can buy raw materials. Okay, and so the products, raw materials, everything can be compensated through this particular revenue. And the expenses like to maintain the soldiers, to build forts, etc., all these expenses were also covered through the revenue from Bengal, and they made enormous revenue by collecting large amounts of taxes, etc. Okay, so this was the main advantage for the Britishers by acquiring the Diwani rights of Bengal. So it is a very important step that made British the economic superior power in India. But there were negative consequences to the Indians, as we know. As you see, after Battle of Buxar, the Nawabs has lost their power, and the rich merchants and ultra rich people who were mainly, these people are the patrons of art. As after this battle, as British acquired power and all of these people lost their power, there were no patrons of art, and the demand for artisans gradually declined, as middle class people or the normal people, they cannot afford art. So only these rich merchants or nawabs, they used to encourage art. And after these people have got perished, there were no persons who were able to encourage artisans, and they got completely declined. Then coming to peasants. So farmers, as they have to pay large amounts of revenue to the Britishers, and at that moment they have seen the production is coming low in their lands. Production is less and the revenues are high. What happened? That led to a condition called famine. As you can see here, there was a terrible famine in Bengal in the year 1770. Okay, it was estimated that around 10 million people were killed in this particular famine. So there was a deep economical crisis and agricultural crisis in that area of Bengal. So British have thought, we have to come up with a new law or act that could change the system. So they came up with an act called Permanent Settlement Act in the year 1793. Okay. So what is this Permanent Settlement Act? So zamindars were allocated. So what did zamindars do? So zamindars had peasants employed under them. Okay, peasants used to give the revenue or the produce, everything to the zamindars. Now zamindars had to pay a fixed. So this is a fixed. They used to fix some kind of revenue. Okay, the peasants used to give their produce to zamindars. Now zamindars used to pay a fixed amount of revenue to the company. Okay, this was the system of Permanent Settlement Act. But the revenue what zamindars paid to company was fixed, so that even there is a profit or there is loss, the company would not incur any loss, and so that they kept this as fixed. That is a main important point, that the zamindars paid fixed revenue to the company. But what happened later on? The production increased, the production, everything got increased. The produce also got increased. The zamindar got a large share of revenue, right? But as the company gave a fixed value for the zamindars to company, so they paid less revenue. So that means zamindars got a higher amount of revenue from the produce, but what they gave to company is less. Okay, because it is fixed, so they gave less. So they company officials got to know this, and they felt that there is a loss for company by the zamindari system. And there was also that the excess revenue what zamindars, it was a rule that what excess revenue the zamindars got, that they have to use it in the improvisation of the agricultural machinery, or using technology, or any kind of development in the agricultural fields. But zamindars were totally disinterested in this particular thing, and they never cared about improving the agricultural condition of their lands. They were only interested in collecting the revenues. So this was a major problem of the zamindari system. Okay. So in order to change this particular system, they have come up with two different systems called Mahalwari system and Vaitwari system. So Mahalwari system is in the northern part of India. Okay, and Vaitwari system is in the southern part of India. Okay. Who invented this Mahalwari system? By Holt Mackenzie. Okay, in the year 1822. So in this system, a village was there. Okay, a village was divided into several number of plots. Yes, everyone will have their own plot. The collectors in here, what happens is the collector comes. He records the land. He surveys the land. He sees the how much produce that they can get and everything. The survey is done for each plot. Okay, and the aggregate revenue what it is there, that is given for the village. So by counting all these plots, by surveying all these plots, there will be an aggregate revenue for the entire village, that is called a mahal. So a mahal is generally a revenue estate or a village or a group of villages. It may be, if there are small villages, it may be group of villages. So a revenue was fixed to a particular village. Okay, so who will collect this revenue? In zamindari system, we see zamindars will collect the revenue. But here, as the revenue is fixed for the village headman will collect the revenue. Okay. And this is not fixed. See, we have seen here permanent settlement, there's a fixed revenue. But here it is not fixed. It will be periodically changed according to the produce, according to the climatic conditions, according to the produce, according to the agricultural conditions at that moment. It will be periodically increased or it will be periodically decreased. This was the main policy of Mahalwari system. So it was in the northern part of Bengal. So it mainly in the North India. Now we'll see Raitwari system. It was in southern part of India. Why a different system was practiced in southern India? Why not Mahalwari system or the zamindari system? Because there were no zamindars in the southern part of India. So what happened? They had to go for alternative method, that is called the Raitwari system. It was invented by Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro. So Thomas Munro and Alexander Reed subsequently they have developed this Raitwari system. So what is Raitwari system? Here there is no concept of zamindars, so the cultivators, they are also called as ryots. They were directly employed and they were fixed a particular kind of revenue, and there was no middleman or something. The cultivators directly were assigned some revenue that to be paid to the British. In this case, this is called the Raitwari system. Okay. There was no zamindar, there was no mahalwari, there is no village headman, etc. Direct cultivators or the rewards will pay revenue to the British. Okay. And then, so these systems, Mahalwari and Raitwari system, also had their own set of problems. The British were too ambitious. They have fixed very high revenues, and because of that, sometimes the produce were not good. The Raitwari system, the riots were not able to pay the revenue to British, and the Mahals also, the village headmen were also not able to pay the revenues because there was no produce. So that's why riots, they fled to the country, they fled the countryside, and they went elsewhere to find work, and all the farmers, peasants also went away to find their work. So this was a problem again. So this was again major problem from the Raitwari system and Mahalwari system. This also did not go well. Okay. Next. So some of the crops British forcefully made the cultivators to plant. One of them, two of them were opium and indigo. So these were in high demand in the Britain. So they found India as a place to plant these opium and indigo and to export them cheaply to the Britain. And in other places, in other places also they have started to forcefully plant commercial plantations like jute in Bengal, tea plantations in Assam, sugarcane plantations in the United Provinces, and wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra, and rice in Madras. So these were forcefully planted, made to be planted by the Britishers in these particular areas. So the main concept we will learn here is indigo. What is indigo? So as you see, there is a bright blue fabric which we see frequently. So this bright blue color comes from a dye from the indigo plant. This is indigo plant. So this indigo plant produces this bright blue color dye. So British has a lot of textile industries, right? So they wanted this particular dye. Okay, this is of high importance. So what it has to do with India? It says that indigo grows well in the tropics. India is a tropical country, as we know. Yes. So it is obvious that indigo grows well in India. And there was also another kind of dye called woad. It is a kind of light violet color dye. So indigo is blue color dye. Woad is light violet color dye. It grows in the temperate area. So British England is a temperate country, right? So woad better grows in the England, but woad is a kind of dull looking dye, whereas you see indigo, it has rich color and it has a bright finish. So there was a lot of demand for indigo. Okay, so indigo grows in tropics, and India is a tropical country, as we know. Yes, so they have forced Indians to grow these indigo plantations. So as you see here, indigo plantations, after the plants have grown and all they have harvested, they go through a rigorous process here, and the indigo dye is sent to the British. Okay, and not only British, other colonies. The indigo was actually very in much demand in Europe. So other colonies like French, Portugal, England, and Spain, they also started planting indigo in their own colonies, like Caribbean islands. Okay, indigo was grown in Caribbean islands by French, because Caribbean islands was a French colony, and Brazil was a Portugal colony. So Portugal grown indigo in Brazil, and England grown indigo in Jamaica, and Venezuela is a Spanish colony. So Spain forcefully planted indigo in Venezuela, and also some parts of North America were also planted. Okay, so what happened due to some crisis in some of these areas? The indigo plantation has to be stopped in particular areas due to some economic and political crisis that is being going on in that particular area. So some of the countries were not able to produce indigo, but the demand was more. So what to do? They have all the eyes have turned to India. As India is a tropical country and the climate is very suitable, they have turned to India to see that the indigo can be planted over here. Before that, it was just 30%, and after they have concentrated a bit, the indigo production, which is exported to in Britain, it went to 95%. So 95% of indigo which is from India, which is exported to Britain, was produced from India itself. Okay. So indigo plantations were through two different systems: niche system and Ryote system. So what is niche system? In this, the planters themselves cultivated the land. Okay. In this, the planters themselves cultivated the land, and they took the land and they cultivated indigo, and they used to sell the produce. But what happened here is they used to have a problem. Indigo required a lot of land, a lot of continuous land, but the land was not it was not available, because indigo has to be grown on fertile lands, right? It cannot be grown on barren lands. It has to be grown on fertile lands, and fertile lands are densely populated. There were many peasants, and they had their agricultural lands over there. They are not ready to give an agricultural lands, and Britishers are not able to find a very big block of land. They found fragments of land here and there, but they're not able to find the big land, and it was also densely populated, so they cannot evacuate the people over there. And then after land, it is labor. Indigo requires a lot of labor for sowing, for harvesting, for plowing, and etc. But all the labor, much of the labor, because it was season of rice harvesting, and so many of the labor would go for rice cultivation, rice harvesting. So there was a problem in land as well as in labor. Okay. In Ryota system, what happened is an interesting topic here. So in Ryota system, the village headman. So the village headman signs an agreement on behalf of all the ryots. So what happens is, in that agreement, it says that the British will pay some revenue to the, or it will give some loan, or it will give revenue advances to the ryots in that particular village. Okay, it pays some revenue. So it says that we will give you some money, and you have to sow 25% of your land, and you have to sow indigo in 25% of your land. Okay, so they will produce the seeds, they will produce the machinery, everything they will be producing, and they will also give you some loan, so that you produce indigo in 25% of your land. So in return, the farmer has to produce indigo in their 1/4 of the land, and they have to give it to the Britishers. Okay, so revenue and the indigo, this was the deal in the agreement. This was called the Riothi system. But what was the problem they have faced here is, indigo has to be grown on fertile lands. Okay, but indigo plantations were not so suitable for the soils. Their roots got very large and they exhausted the soil quality. Once the indigo has been removed, or it was being harvested, the soil was not ready to sow rice again. So the most of the land got wasted, and they felt in this vicious cycles of loans and plantations. So this was vicious cycles of the loans and plantations. It was not, they were not ready to sacrifice their land, because of fertile lands. India had a rich fertile land, so all these were going to indigo, and the rice cultivation was not possible there, and this complete never-ending loan cycles. So farmers were fed up by these things. So this was a problem that they have faced during the indigo cultivation. So then what happened? Eventually there was a revolt. Okay, in this revolt, the zamindars, peasants, and the village headmen together fought with the British. So what happened? Zamindars were also not happy, because the Britishers were taking full control over their lands. Right? They have taken agreement. They are cultivating indigo, etc. So all these, they were imposing a complete control over their land. So the Zamindars were not happy, as they were not given any control, and peasants were not happy because the fertile lands are getting spoiled by the British. And then village headmen were also not happy, because their lands are given to large leases, and British is imposing control over them. So everyone was not happy by this, and they all revolted against the British. So what was the consequence? So the British government got to know about this, and they appointed an Indigo Commission inquiring about the situation of the indigo plantations in Bengal. So the commission came to India, and then later on it decided that now the farmers or the ryots need not grow indigo, and they are not compelled to grow indigo. So it's their way, completely up to their wish that they can grow indigo or not. Okay, and the planters were held guilty. So ryots were completely set free that they need not grow indigo in Bengal. So this was a report of Indigo Commission. Okay, it supported the rebellion, and it stopped growing indigo in Bengal. But what happened? This did not end here. From Bengal, the indigo plantation moved to Bihar. Okay. So then here the exploitation started again in Bihar. So what happened? But slowly, after a particular point, then in Bihar, then we had this famous Champaran movement. We'll see in the next slide what does Champaran movement mean. So the exploitation of Bihar plantation farmers, that led to Gandhiji conducting the Champaran movement. Okay. So what is Champaran movement? Champaran movement was led by Champaran Satyagraha, or as we call it, is by Gandhiji in the year 1917, where it was held in Bihar against indigo cultivation. So Gandhiji has seen that the farmers are forced to cultivate indigo, and their lands are getting spoiled. So for this reason, he started a satyagraha called Champaran Satyagraha. Finally, the indigo plantation was stopped by this movement. But and later on also, these natural dyes were stopped, and the British industries got developed, and then there was a development in synthetic dyes. So synthetic blue color, etc., were produced synthetically. So there was no much demand to indigo as it was in prior. So the synthetic dyes were produced, and the demand for indigo got slowly reduced. And also famous Champaran movement led Britishers stop the cultivation in Bihar. So this was about the Champaran movement. Now we'll go for a quick questionnaire. Okay. Raitwari system was introduced by. So Raitwari system is in the north or south of India. As we see, north it was Mahalwari system, south it was Raitwari system. Who invented the Mahalwari system in the north? Holt Mackenzie. Who invented who carried out the Raitwari system in the south? It was Thomas Munro and Alexander Reed. So what will be the answer? It is Thomas Munro. Option A. So Mackenzie was Mahalwari introduced the Mahalwari system. Champaran Satyagraha was against Raitwari system, Mahalwari system, indigo plantation and tea plantation. As we know, Champaran Satyagraha was conducted by Gandhiji in the year 1917, where it was held in Bihar against the exploitation of the farmers against what? Against the indigo plantation. So option C would be the answer. So as British forced people to cultivate some of the commercial plantations, so we'll match each of the plantation to the area they have been grown. So where was jute grown? So jute was grown in Bengal. Tea was grown in Assam. Wheat was grown in the parts of Punjab, and rice was grown in the parts of South India, that is Madras. Right. So here we end today's chapter. We'll meet you in the next video.